After losing a tire in Sunday's race at Michigan, Chase Elliott is now in a must-win position in order to make the playoffs. So the question is he going to be driving desperately over the next 3 weeks like he's a Pac-12 team looking for a future home, or is he just going to chalk this season up as a dud and then just resort to riding out the last 3 weeks and then subsequently riding out the last 10 races until his legion of fans are clamoring for Alan Gustafson to be fired at the end of the year, which is really stupid. Hopefully their fans are smart enough to realize that Alan Gustafson is really the reason that they won that championship in 2020, and there's not a better option out there right now for Chase. Plus, they still have race-winning speed. So, will Chase Elliott win a race over the next 3 races? Well, after he wrecked out on Sunday at Michigan, and then the race was subsequently red flagged because of rain, and then finished on Monday, Chase was long gone by the time that race restarted on Monday. He talked to NBC, and he mentioned that after Parker said, you know, your chances of pointing your way in are now out the window, which they're not technically all the way out the window. He's 55 points below the playoff cutoff line with 3 races to play and 100 and, honestly, 80 points up for grab, if we're being completely honest here. So things could happen. It would need a lot of work to happen, but it is possible. Having said that, Parker said, you know, now that pointing your way in is basically out of the picture, you know, what do you think? And Chase was very annoyed, more annoyed than the Women's World Cup team is going to be about talking about their performance in the World Cup. He came on and was like, you know, I've told you guys ever since I came back that it was going to take a win to get to the playoffs. We were never going to point our way in, basically. And I don't agree with that. But now, definitely, a win is the easiest and most likely way for him to make it into the playoffs. The good news for Chase Elliott and his legions of fans, some of which are sane and some of which are absolutely insane, is that they're headed to 2 road courses and Daytona to close out the regular season. 3 tracks that he could easily win on. Indianapolis Road Course is an absolute toss-up. He does have an average finish of 10th at the Indianapolis Road Course. Absolutely fantastic. After that, they head to Watkins Glen. Chase Elliott, very good at Watkins Glen. Spoiler alert. He should have probably won there last year before contact with Kyle Larson late in the race sent him off and he ends up not winning. He has an average finish of 5.5 and he also has 2 wins at the track as well. There's no reason to think that he couldn't contend for another win 2 weeks from now as well either. And then you head to Daytona, a drafting track where he has 2 previous wins on drafting tracks, never has a win at Daytona. His average finish is 22, doesn't look great, but like we saw last year, anything can happen at Daytona. Whether that's be half the field's wrecking because there's rain in turns 1 and 2, or Austin Dillon winning the race, Austin Cindric ends up winning the race, Mike McDowell's won a race there before. Things can happen at Daytona. Chase just has to put himself in the right position. Seemingly doesn't do that very often at specifically Daytona, but if he does, he could find himself in victory lane, and you have to think that his Hendrick teammates, at least Kyle Larson and William Byron, are going to be pushing that 48 and the 9 to the front, assuming that neither one of them win over the next 2 weeks at the Indianapolis Road Course and at Watkins Glen. Having said all that, Chase just seems like he's absolutely done with this season, right? He seems like he's completely over it, fed up, just wants the offseason to come, channeling his inner Noah Gragson, and being like, you know, wish it was the off season. Like, bud, we still got 13 weeks to go before that happens. He just doesn't seem like he has it this year. And for NASCAR's most popular driver, and I know this is a Chase Elliott thing, he's always really down on himself. He's not really the most personable guy in interviews. Doesn't give a good interview. I don't think he's ever given a good interview. But to have the most popular driver just be kind of an asshole like he has been this year, specifically like in interviews, is kind of odd, but at the same time, he put himself in this position, right? Like, he decided to go snowboarding, which I think you should more than be able to do. Definitely do not limit what these guys do, but at the same time, like, there's consequences to doing things like that, and he breaks his leg, he's out for 6 weeks, he comes back, gets suspended because he throws a temper tantrum in the Coke 600 and wrecks Denny Hamlin, and now he's missed 7 races. The fact that he's only 55 points below the playoff cutoff is actually pretty remarkable, considering there are guys that are around him in points that he's battling with that have made a start in every race this season. So, yeah, Chase Elliott just not having the year that he thought he was going to have when Daytona rolled around in February. And honestly, yeah, probably definitely wants to just move on to next year. Just restart and go from there. But yeah, he's going to need a win. And I think Watkins Glen is the best chance for him to make the playoffs. And if he doesn't make the playoffs, then having your most popular driver in the playoffs is not ideal. But we've also seen the old NASCAR regime tweaked the playoff format to make sure that their most popular drivers, Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon, would be included by expanding the playoffs and making it a little bit easier for them. So will they expand the playoffs in 2024 for Chase Elliott, where if you win the most popular driver award, you get into the postseason? No. I mean, Brian France's NASCAR, maybe. Jim France's NASCAR, that's not going to happen. But yeah, I think if Chase doesn't win at Watkins Glen, I think that's really probably the end of the road for him and his postseason hopes. So let me know in the comments. Do you think he will win at one of these upcoming 3 races and lock himself into the playoffs? Or if you're a Chase Elliott fan, are you just done with this whole season and honestly just want to get to Phoenix and get this season over with? So like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at Break Hard, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Break Hard Blog.